I cooked dinner for 12 people, set the table lit. The candles adjusted the playlist 3 times so it wouldn't offend anyone. And as I stood there, apron-creased hands still smelling faintly of thyme and lemon, my mom took one bite, scrunched her face, and said, "Next time, just order something edible." My dad added without looking up, "Or maybe just stay out of the kitchen entirely." They laughed, and not one of them said anything. That's when I knew. This wasn't just one bad night. This was the moment I stopped setting the table for people who never saw me sitting at it. My name is Olivia Grant. I'm 28, live in Portland, and I work as an operations coordinator for a local arts nonprofit. On paper, my job is project management timelines, logistics coordination. Off paper, that skill set bleeds into every other part of my life, especially family. Last Thanksgiving, I cooked dinner for 12 people. Again. I didn't just cook. I planned. I cleaned. I double-checked who was vegetarian, who was keto this month, who swore off dairy but only in cheese form. I borrowed extra folding chairs picked up my uncle from the train station and built a playlist that somehow pleased 3 generations and didn't offend anyone. The house wasn't even mine. It was my parents'. But they don't like hosting alone anymore, which really just means I do all the work while they take the credit. I brought the groceries the day before, prepped everything in the garage fridge, and then spent 6 straight hours in the kitchen. No complaints, no martyr energy, just quiet focus. I do this kind of thing well, and they know it. When the final platter hit the table, rosemary roast chicken with lemon thyme just because my dad says turkey's too dry. I stood there for a moment. I looked at the candles, the neatly folded napkins, the curated chaos of a warm meal done right. It wasn't fancy, but it was thoughtful. A meal stitched together with time care and a little bit of me. They came to the table. They sat. They passed plates. For a second, I thought maybe, this time, someone would notice. Instead, my mom wrinkled her nose as if someone had brought in a wet dog. Then, she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "We should have just ordered takeout. At least it would have been edible." Someone chuckled. I don't remember who. Maybe my cousin. Maybe my dad. Maybe both. All I know is that my ears rang and my throat dried, and no one, not one person, said anything in my defense. They just kept eating. I stood there behind my chair, hands still sticky from basting apron crumpled at my waist. And in that moment, something unhooked inside me. Not rage, not even hurt. Just a shift. A final click. Something inside me said, "Okay, then let them feed themselves next time." My mom didn't say it again. She didn't have to. The words were already cemented in the air, sharp and sour like vinegar left too long in a pan. My dad added without looking up, "Or maybe next time, just stay out of the kitchen entirely." He laughed as he said it, that casual, backhanded kind of laugh that people use when they're pretending it's a joke. But it wasn't a joke. Not really. Because he meant it. They all did. Every single person at that table, from my aunt with her second glass of Chardonnay, to my brother who still expected me to iron his shirts when he visited, they heard it and they said nothing. I was still standing, still holding the serving spoon. I looked at them, 12 people eating food I made in a house I cleaned from a table I reset 3 times so it would feel more balanced. No one looked up. No one made eye contact. No one cared. I took a slow breath. Then I set the spoon down. I untied my apron, folded it in half, and draped it over the back of my chair like a surrender flag that wasn't quite surrender. And I said in a voice so calm it scared me, "Then you can pay for takeout next time." "Because I'm done." They laughed. Aunt Dana gave a little, "Oh, come on." My cousin Megan said, "You always take things so personally." Even my brother smirked. It's just mom being mom. But I wasn't taking it personally. I was taking it clearly. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't defending myself. I wasn't shrinking. I wasn't second-guessing whether I was overreacting. I just knew deeply that I had reached the end of my use. They didn't want me. Not really. They wanted the version of me who set alarms for the turkey, who remembered Uncle Jeff's allergy, who booked the group Airbnb and brought the table runners. They wanted the labor, not the person. I didn't throw a fit. I didn't storm out. I sat down and quietly ate a few bites of the salad I'd made with roasted squash and pomegranate seeds. No one noticed that I didn't refill anyone's drinks. No one asked why I didn't bring out dessert. They assumed I'd reset. Reboot. Re-engage. But that night, as they swirled wine and passed jokes over a meal they didn't lift a finger to create, I was already plotting my exit. Not from the room, from the role. After dinner, I cleared my own plate. Just mine. I left the other dishes where they were. Chicken bones, empty salad bowls, glasses smeared with fingerprints. I didn't reach for the sponge. I didn't hover by the sink like I always did, waiting for someone to notice to say, "Sit. Olivia, we've got this," because they never did, and I was done pretending that someday they would. I slipped upstairs to the guest room. The door creaked same as it had since I was 17, but this time I didn't close it out of politeness. I closed it like punctuation, like a line being drawn. There was no drama, no slamming, just the soft click of a door finally serving its purpose. I pulled out my laptop, logged into my Airbnb account, canceled the reservation for the family Christmas cabin in Bend, the one I'd booked 6 months ago in my name on my card, with their "we'll settle up later" texts still sitting unread. Next, I opened the ski resort website, canceled the New Year's booking, gone. Then, I opened the shared Google Drive, the one titled Holiday Planner, Olivia. Inside, itineraries, menus, flight confirmations, group chat archives, budget tabs, and contact lists. I didn't even hesitate. Select all, delete, no backup, no draft folder, no explanations. I moved to the group chat, the one where everyone dropped their demands with quick question or, "Can you just real fast?" I didn't say goodbye. I just left. I didn't rage quit. I reclaimed. Back downstairs, they were still laughing, still drinking. Someone had put on music. My mom called up Livy dessert. I replied evenly, "There's tiramisu in the fridge. Help yourself." That was it. She didn't come up. She didn't ask why I sounded distant. She didn't notice that something massive had just shifted beneath the surface. Because they never notice. But this time, they'd feel it not in my voice, not in my expression, but in the work I didn't do. In the trip that didn't happen. In the spreadsheet that disappeared. In the silence I left behind. It didn't start with Thanksgiving. It started years ago, quietly, steadily, like a slow leak beneath the floorboards. You don't notice it at first. Then one day your footing's gone. I've always been good at managing things. That's what they said. Not with admiration, but expectation. I was the easy daughter. The one who didn't rebel, didn't demand, didn't crumble. The one who knew when to send thank you cards and which uncle didn't like cilantro. When I was 10, I set the table while Mom panicked in the kitchen. At 13, I packed for family trips, not just my own suitcase, but my brother's too. At 21, I coordinated Dad's retirement party. RSVPs, catering, music speech order. I was still in college. They called it helpful. They called me our little rock. But rocks don't get asked if they're tired, they just get stepped on. When my brother got married, I basically ran the wedding. The bride wanted a minimalist woodland theme. My mom wanted lace and crystals. I was the buffer, the planner, the glue. I built the schedule, organized the rehearsal dinner, managed the hotel block. On the day of the ceremony, someone handed me a walkie-talkie and said, "You're the only one who can keep this from falling apart." I smiled, like I always did, because it felt good to be needed until I realized being needed was the only reason they kept me close. No one ever asked how I was doing. They assumed I was fine because I made things fine for everyone else. Even my birthday was a logistics job. Last year, I got a text from my mom. "Can you book something for brunch on your birthday? You know what places you like." I did it, made the reservation, paid the deposit, sent the calendar invite. When we got there, she complained about the coffee. Dad handed me his phone and asked me to take a family photo and never passed it back so I could be in one. There was no malice. That's the part that hurts the most. They weren't cruel. They were careless. They built a whole rhythm around me being the default, setting the one who'd say yes, who'd follow up, who'd absorb the stress so no one else had to. But at some point, helpful becomes invisible, and invisible turns into disposable. And this time, after dinner, after the silence after that sentence, at least it would have been edible. I finally understood. They didn't just take me for granted. They built their lives around it. And I was done being the scaffolding for people who never looked up to see what was holding them together. The morning after Thanksgiving, I woke up early. Not out of habit, but out of clarity. The house was quiet. Downstairs, I could hear the soft clatter of someone making coffee. Probably my dad still thinking I'd be the one to organize the leftovers into labeled containers. But I didn't go down. Instead, I opened my laptop and began. First, the Christmas trip. Canceled. Airbnb gone. Confirmation email deleted. Next, the New Year's ski weekend. It had taken me weeks to find a place that fit everyone's needs, walking distance to the lifts, pet-friendly, not too rustic for my aunt, not too modern for my mom. I clicked cancel reservation and watched the screen refresh like an exhale. Then came the Google Drive. Not just holiday stuff, the whole archive. Birthday spreadsheets, allergy lists, travel timelines, gift tracker docs. I'd built it all over the years because no one else would, or wanted to. One by one, I deleted them. Folders, subfolders, backups. Gone. Not archived. Erased. After that, the group chats. There was one for Christmas logistics, one for birthdays, one called Cousins Only, which wasn't actually just cousins. And of course the big one, Holiday Command Center, Olivia lead. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't make a dramatic exit. I just left, quietly. Like closing a door I never agreed to open in the first place. They wouldn't notice right away. That's the irony. The people who rely on you the most are often the last to realize when you're gone because they never imagined you could be. I logged into the family PayPal account, the one I created to collect deposits that always arrived late or not at all. There was still money in it. I refunded every dollar, every cent, including my own. No note, no explanation. And finally, I opened one last tab, a solo cabin 3 hours outside Portland for Christmas week. 1-bedroom wood stove, no Wi-Fi. I booked it under my name, my card, my rules. Then I closed my laptop, and for the first time in a decade of family planning, I didn't feel behind. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel worried someone would get left out. I didn't feel anything but light. There's a quiet power in deletion, not to punish, not to vanish, but to reset. They thought I was their event coordinator, but I was their scaffolding, and I had finally removed myself from their foundation, not to watch them collapse, but to see what would rise in my place. It took 2 days. 2 days of silence before the first crack in their system showed. My brother texted me, "Hey, weird question, did the Christmas cabin cancel itself? Site says no longer available." I didn't respond. An hour later, he followed up. "We already sent you our part for that, remember?" Which was funny because they hadn't. Not to me. They'd sent it to the family PayPal, the one I'd created, managed, and quietly funded when people forgot. So I logged in, found the transfer, refunded every cent. No message, just a receipt. The next day, my mom called. I let it ring. Then came the email. Subject line, "We need to talk about the holidays." No greeting, no warmth. Just 5 paragraphs of veiled scolding. I know Thanksgiving didn't go the way you wanted, but canceling plans without notice is immature. People rely on you, Olivia. We expect more responsibility from you than this. There it was, the word they always reached for: maturity. Not support, not concern. Just a polished way of saying, serve us better. I didn't reply. Then came the confusion. A flurry of texts in the holiday group chat, the one I hadn't left yet. So, are we still doing the cabin? Wait, did someone order pies who's picking up Nana from the airport? Olivia, you there? I was. I just wasn't answering. Not because I was playing games, not to punish them. I was simply no longer performing. I'd built the system. They thought it ran itself. They thought I ran on duty, not on choice. But I'd made mine. They could coordinate their own chaos now. Figure out car rentals and menu plans and wine pairings. Learn what it means to carry the weight instead of handing it to the person who always said yes. That week, the chat exploded with 30 unread messages in 2 hours. Disagreements, reassignments, confusion. No one tagged me directly, but every message was asking, "Where is Olivia?" I didn't open the app again. Instead, I went to the grocery store, bought my favorite tea, fresh rosemary, a chocolate cake I wouldn't have to cut 12 slices from. I walked home slowly, my bag rustling, the city cool and quiet around me. Let them scramble. Let them realize. Silence is not absence. Sometimes it's the first time you've actually spoken. I woke up the next morning without an alarm. No texts about forgotten pies or last-minute RSVPs. No guilt tugging at my mind. Just my own breathing, steady and unhurried. I poured tea into my favorite mug, the one with a crack I fixed with gold paint because broken things can still be beautiful. I wrapped myself in a blanket by the window, watching the first snow dust the sidewalks. For years I thought busy meant worthy, but in that silence I found permission to just be. I baked banana bread not for anyone else, but because I wanted the scent of warmth in my kitchen. I smiled, knowing no one would walk in and tell me to just order something edible. That freedom tasted sweeter than any recipe. I laced up my boots and wandered through the park snow, crunching underfoot, my breath curling in the air. I didn't check my phone. I didn't worry about seating charts. I just existed. In that quiet, I realized I hadn't lost anything. I'd gained space to choose to feel, to heal. I emailed myself a promise. My worth isn't tied to what I do for others. I lit a candle not for ambiance, but as a beacon, I matter. Silence wasn't absence. It was the first time I heard my own voice whispering, "You're more than your labor." I still have the apron, soft from years of use, a faint cranberry stain near the pocket from a holiday long past. I washed it, folded it, tucked it in a drawer I rarely open. Not to wear again, but to remember the moment I chose myself. They didn't apologize. Not really. Weeks later, a few texts trickled in. "We missed you," or "wish you'd been there," but no one acknowledged what they'd taken, what they'd expected, what they'd ignored, and I wasn't waiting for their clarity to find mine. This Christmas, I sat at a table for one, a candle, a plate, a stew I made because I wanted to. Snow fell outside my cabin window. I read, I rested. I remembered who I am when I'm not being useful. I don't know how their holidays went. My brother texted once annoyed, saying they scrambled to book a last-minute Airbnb and argued over who'd pay. Mom emailed about tradition, but it felt more like a plea for me to return to my role. They're learning slowly what it means to carry their own weight. Some are managing, others are floundering. I don't need to watch to know they'll figure it out or they won't. Either way, it's not my load anymore. As for me, I'm imagining a future where my energy goes to what lights me up. Maybe I'll take a pottery class, travel solo, or just keep baking for myself. I'm not done with family forever, but I'm done being their default. If we rebuild, it'll be on new terms, where I'm seen, not just needed. To anyone who's been the planner, the fixer, the quiet glue, your value isn't in your availability. Your worth isn't in carrying what others won't. You don't have to burn yourself down to keep others warm. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is put the apron away and let them feel your absence. Not to punish, but to free yourself, because silence isn't weakness, and walking away isn't abandonment. Sometimes it's the beginning of peace.